used to, across the board, say, yes, you should buy a house, but it's 2025 and things have gotten a lot more expensive. It's complicated, and I think it's harder to answer that question. So today I want to try and explore this with you all and see if it's worth buying a house. Hi friends, Alex Kais here. I'm a self-employed realtor, a sometimes pretend carpenter, and a creative at heart. I have some stories to go over, some successes, some failures from past clients, some personal anecdotes, and I'll talk about the worst real estate purchase that we ever made. And we'll take a field trip out on the town in order to try and find a good deal out there. So first of all, let's go over the basics of how you even buy a house. And I'm gonna be using Seattle numbers here, so I hope that doesn't upset you about how expensive our houses are, but that's just how it is. The median sales price of a home in Seattle last year was about $925,000. But you don't have to have $1 million in the bank in order to buy a house. You only need a minimum of 3.5% of that in order to use as a down payment. Then when you get a mortgage, the bank buys the house for you and you slowly pay the bank back. So according to the terms of your mortgage, you'll have a monthly payment, and affordability of that does not necessarily correlate to the purchase price of the house. Let's look at a couple examples to help that make sense. That $1 million house at a 7% interest rate with $35,000 down comes to about $73.50 per month. But if you wait a few months, interest rates come down to 6.25% and you're able to put 10% down, it comes out to about $64.50. Or you sell your first house in order to get a bit more space and you have enough equity to put 20% down on the next house, then it comes out to about $54.50. Same price, different affordability, so you can see how it becomes very difficult to answer that blanket question of should I buy a house right now? This is just a quick little interlude here to say thanks for watching, and I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed and liked, and stay tuned for future videos. We also have a podcast too, if you're looking for like up-to-date market knowledge and tips. And if you're thinking of buying a house, then send me a message, and I'd love to see if we can work together or if I can just help out in any way. Anyways, I'm driving you to our current fixer-upper project house to talk about some of the do's and don'ts on buying a house. Do buy a house if you want to put in a bit of sweat equity. I think this is true in most markets, but especially true now when things are sitting a little bit longer. A lot of people are a little fearful. These houses that need work are going at a pretty good discount. This was really the only way that Kendall and I could get into our first home. We didn't have a lot of money when we started homeownership. We got the seller to pay for all of our closing costs. We had a down payment assistance grant. We closed on the house with $5,000 out of pocket, which is insane. Would be a little bit harder today, but is still very possible. I have helped a couple people buy a house with very little out of pocket. But this house needed a lot of work, but the major bones of the house were pretty good. And we put about $60,000 into it and profited after 3 years about $200,000. So we were able to put a larger down payment on the next house, which provided a lot more security. Similarly, this house needs a lot of work. We got it at a good price, $530, and we got the seller to pay for some closing costs. And once it's fixed up, I'm hoping that it's going to be worth about $750. So there's a little bit of cushion there, which it needs a lot of money to fix it up, but there's a lot of room there, and you make some money putting in some of that work. Now, I truly don't know if this would work if you were hiring out a lot of this work. This house needs about $140,000 worth of work. And, the plumbers cost about $35,000. The electricians are costing $25,000. So, labor is very expensive. But, I did drywall, I did a lot of framing, I'm doing the flooring. I'm installing my own windows and doing a lot of this work myself. I'm saving a ton of money, but it's also like a full-on part-time job, which for me works out because, especially now, it's a kind of a slower real estate market, so I have the time to be doing this, but it's also my industry, and I have the knowledge, I have the resources to ask questions of professionals. So, I wouldn't blanket say everybody should buy a fixer-upper and fix it up, because that's how people get into a lot of trouble. But, if you're willing to take on a bit of a risk and learn some things, and you have a little bit of knowledge, or at least the ability to learn it, then I think it's a great way to go. This is a big reason I love living in the Pacific Northwest, is these city parks that are basically just forests. And this one's just like a 5 or 7 minute walk from my house. Okay, a scenario where I don't think you should buy a house is if you're not planning to stick around for at least, I'd say 5 years. I think that's the minimum amount you need to stay in a house. Unless you get lucky, we sold a house after 3 years and made a lot of money, but that's because COVID happened, and it was completely unpredictable and just wild market swings. On average though, 5 years, you just stick around in the house. I have a story about a client who sold after only, I think we listed the house 18 months after they bought it, and they ended up selling for $10,000 less than they bought it for. It was pretty bad. But, sometimes you can't account for this. They took a new job across the country and had to move. They bought a fixer-upper and didn't have time to completely fix it up. And then market sentiment changed. People weren't scrambling to buy houses, and fixer-uppers weren't as desirable, because you could just buy a house that was already done for just a little bit more. So this issue of time and just waiting helps to alleviate some of these concerns and just make up for any market swings. So minimum 5 years. I think that's what you need to do. We bought a house during COVID. It's now a vacation house that we supplement by renting it out for short-term rentals. We vastly overpaid for it. We paid at the height of the market. It's still probably worth less than what we paid for. We've owned it for 2 or 3 years now. I'm a little disappointed, yes, but not overly concerned, because we're not planning to sell it anytime soon. And I know that given time, it will make up that value, and we'll be able to sell it for more than we bought it for eventually. So I'm heading over to a listing that we have going live in probably a month or 2. But we're getting some work done on it. Handyman is helping us out, and need to check in on a couple things, do a couple projects, just see how it's going. I thought I would bring you along as we continue our do's and don'ts list. Actually, never mind. The painters were already getting started, and I was super awkward trying to film. But I just took down these curtains from this house that we're getting ready to sell. They're handmade, and I don't want paint getting on them or anything. But I put up some cheap, those paper bifold things that are kind of terrible, but they do provide privacy and security, which is what I'm after. Now, as I'm walking to get some coffee, to tackle the next one here, which is, in a hot market, do know all of the risks. And I keep seeing all these videos about people waiving inspection because that's what they had to do, and then they get surprised by some foundation issue or something. And this is not how you should buy a house. Even if you're waiving inspection, I always try to do due diligence before submitting an offer. And this is a good way to compete and to win against multiple offers, is to waive inspection. But it doesn't mean you go in blind and just believe what the seller has to offer. So get a good team behind you, get a good lender, a good realtor, people who can advise and protect you, and then prepare to stick around for a while, you know? If it is a hot market, you're probably gonna overpay, and you need that time in order to make up for it. Now, don't waste a down market. I think that, especially right now, it's a good time to be buying just because prices are a little bit lower, there's less competition. And usually markets are down for a reason. You know, interest rates are high, market sentiment is low, people are freaked out. If you're freaked out, then I don't necessarily think that you should just go out and buy a house willy-nilly, but if you were already planning to buy something, then now is a good time and you should take advantage of it. Now, what a lot of people do during these seasons, they're like, I'm gonna wait for the very bottom, I'm gonna try and time it perfectly, which I don't think is a good strategy because you will not be successful and you might miss your chance. So take advantage of the down season and get out there and get yourself a house, because housing is scarce and it's expensive and you need every advantage you can get. So we're looking at a townhouse right now. This is in Capitol Hill, one of the trendier neighborhoods in Seattle. I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about like the difference between new and old construction here, and talk a little bit about what kind of house you should buy, or at least illuminate some.
As I run around and fix all the staging that she moves. Was this here?
It doesn't look like it belongs
there. I don't think she did that though. Yeah, so it's an interesting question to think about, and thinking especially like we're here in Capitol Hill, one of the most desirable neighborhoods in Seattle. We're in a 2-bedroom, 1.75 bath condo. It's listed for $1.2499, but it also has an extra office space and like this party pad guest room thing on the top, which you'll see in a minute. So it is a lot of money, but keep in mind that this is pretty much the most desirable location in all of Seattle, convenience-wise. We're in a townhouse, but to purchase a single-family home in this neighborhood would be a lot more. So thinking about new construction versus older, getting into something newer like a townhouse might be a way to get yourself into one of these super desirable neighborhoods without having to shell out $2-3 million for a single family home in a similar location.
Also, just this issue of density too. Like, these are on smaller lots. We're built close to other homes, which might be a drawback to some people, but it does drive the price down because there's more availability, more inventory.
Which Alex and I are always saying is one step towards a solution to kind of our Seattle housing crisis. And also just a lot of people are thinking about how to have a smaller physical footprint and like ecological footprint, and this is one way to do it. So we are big fans of the townhouse option, and that's often these days comes in new construction. One other thing that I personally love, one thing that's been driving me crazy about my 1960s house, ceiling height. We love the layout of our home, but we have 7.5 foot ceilings?
Yeah, and these are like 10 probably.
Yeah, and you're just not gonna get that in older homes. It makes it feel so much bigger. So yes, you only have 1,400 square feet of living space, but it feels like more because of some of these new construction techniques.
Let's have a look around. This is the main living room and kitchen. We're on the street level. If you come upstairs, we have a bedroom here and a bathroom. And this is like a little office space.
I'd spend a lot of time in this room. This is so pleasant. It's small, but it's pleasant. So I mentioned in these homes you might have a smaller ecological footprint because it's smaller, but also they're all gonna be at least 4-star built green. So they're gonna have systems built in that are much more environmentally friendly. And you don't get like walk-in closets and phenomenal bathrooms in these older craftsman homes and heated floors that I'm standing on right now. So one thing to consider with new versus old is kind of the obvious, like old is going to have more work to do. New is going to have less work to do. So you might have fewer costs kind of like right away. Like you're not going to have to fix the roof right away. You're not going to have to, replace heating HVAC systems. But when you're thinking about a real estate investment, with new construction, you're also not going to be able to force any like quick or immediate appreciation because there's just no work to be done. Whereas if you buy an older home, do a few fixes right away or over time, you've forced appreciation in your home and you've forced more equity. So in terms of like an immediate real estate investment, you know, maybe you think about an older home.
This is really nice here. We're in one of the more expensive units in this development, but we have this like top floor.
This is amazing.
Party pad.
This would be like, yeah, like party pad, maybe office, but like super nice guest room. It's not closed off like a bedroom, but you could totally have someone stay up here and just feel like they're like in their own private oasis with a wet bar and fridge.
Outside,
Okay, sure. Well, I don't know. It might be wet out there, actually, hon. I don't think we're gonna go out right now. You want to choose a tree? There's a little kid right there. What kind of tree would you? Oh, you got a huge one. Is that Americano? Is that coffee or Americano? Kind of. Let's step on that.